new gang has taken control of Metro City. It's up to Guy, Hager, and a couple new friends to help save the day and free Metro City from this scourge. It's Final Fight 3 for the Super Nintendo today on Power Up. Again, as usual, welcome back to the show. For today's episode, I'm going to do another brawler, a very fun brawler, made by Capcom, because you know Capcom loves the brawlers. Well, the game I mentioned, the game in question I'm going to do is Final Fight 3 on the Super Nintendo. As you know, the original Final Fight came out for the Super Nintendo around its launch day back in 1991. But anyway, I also reviewed the Sega CD version of Final Fight, and that was fun too. And the funny thing is, for Final Fight 1 on the Super Nintendo, there's two versions of that game. There's the actual Final Fight, and there's Final Fight Guy. The difference being Final Fight Guy has the Guy character, but they took out Cody. And the original Final Fight game has Cody, but not Guy. But both versions have Hager. Weird, right? Also, if you wonder, why didn't they make one with all three of them, which is weird. Although, to note, there was a Nintendo game, Final Fight, with all three of them. And that was the Game Boy Advance game, Final Fight 1, which had all three characters in once, and that brought back the two-player co-op for the Final Fight for that first game. But though, after that, anyway, getting ahead of myself here. After Final Fight came out for the Super Nintendo, Capcom decided to made two more sequels exclusive to the Super Nintendo. The first one was Final Fight 2, but that's not going to be the game I'm reviewing. I do have it, but that's not the game I'm going to review at the moment. But anyway, Final Fight 2 brought back two-player co-op to the Final Fight games for the Super Nintendo. And so that was pretty cool to play a Final Fight game in two-player on the Super Nintendo. That was awesome. But anyway, the game I'm reviewing today is, as I mentioned, Final Fight 3. And to me, I think to me it is one of my personal favorites, if not my favorite Final Fight. Granted, Final Fight CD was pretty fun on the Sega CD, but what was cool about Final Fight 3 was a whole bunch of other cool things, and a bunch of cool things all those other games didn't have, which was pretty cool. So anyway, and also there's even a new gang, because in this game, in Final Fight 3, as I'll mention in a bit very soon here, the Mad Gear gang isn't the main foe in Final Fight 3. It's a whole new gang. But anyway, enough of that. Let's get to it and save Metro City once again. Final Fight 3 was released in 1995 for the Super Nintendo and made it to the Wii Virtual Console in 2010. Basically, the plot of the story or the game, of course, Final Fight games usually don't need plot, but anyway, in Final Fight 3, the Mad Gear gang, who were the protagonists or the bad guys in Final Fight 1 and 2, have finally been defeated and went away or something. Well, they've been defeated. So the gangs that weren't the Mad Gear were fighting for control of Metro City, and the gang that was the top dog was the Skullcross gang, and that's the enemy, the foe you'll be fighting in Final Fight 3. So the first level has you go through. Basically, the game opens with the Skullcross starting a riot in town. So then Cody, and at the beginning of the game, Hagar, there's a cutscene at the for the opening part of the game where Guy returns from his training abroad and sees his old friend Hagar. And as they're talking, is when they hear this boosh, this big explosion happens, and one of Hagar's detectives, Lucia, I think I'm pronouncing her right, Lucia, I'll say Lucia. That's what it looks like to me anyway. Anyway, Lucia comes in and says, this stuff is happening, we should really do something about it. And before they can rush out and go kick some butt, a mysterious person by the name of Dean comes and also offers his assistance. And it just so happens that after you fight the first level, the first scene or for level, then you'll see another cutscene that has Dean explain his backstory, he was a Street Fighter on the a fighter on the Street Fighter circuit who was offered to join the Skullcross, and when he refused, they basically killed his whole family. So he becomes mad and wants to take down the Skullcross, and thus begins the game. So anyway, in the game, and also what's cool about this game is there's branching paths. You don't have to go like in the other two Final Fights. And of course, Final Fight CD for the Sega CD as well, but I already did that. But anyway, in the previous Final Fights, it was basically you just went, boom, boom, boom. There was a straight path. Whereas in Final Fight 3, there's the branching. So you can toss a guy into a door, the door bursts open, and you can walk in and go to another branching path, which is really cool. In fact, in this playthrough, there's even a path you can take that you can skip a whole area and go to another area. In fact, there's even a path where later on in the game, you can skip a whole boss and just go to the next level, which is kind of neat, or not neat, depending if you want enemies to fight enemies or not. And of course, being in a new Final Fight, you get a whole arsenal of awesome moves to lay down the smackdown on some bad guys. And this, to me, is one of the most extensive arsenals each character has. Like in the other two Final Fights, there's basically, like for instance, Hagar had a punch, a jumping attack, and a throw. Not a throw. Well, he had a couple wrestling moves like a suplex, and he had his pile driver. In Final Fight 3, he has now a spinning pile driver, but I think the spinning pile driver was in Final Fight 2, but that's for another review. But now each character besides that, it has reverse grab moves. So that really opens up that reverse grab. You can do even more moves with that reverse grab. Like for instance, if you just grab somebody and do the jump, the jump and down attack or whatever, Hagar does his spinning pile driver. But now if you do a reverse grab, he'll do a completely different move for that when you jump up in the air and do the attack button. So each character even has, this game introduced Street Fighter-like button combinations. Especially for, if you see now in this game, as you fight and beat up enemies, a small meter on the bottom of the screen will fill up. And when that meter fills up, you can unleash like a Street Fighter-like combination to really do a lot more damage to your enemies, which is pretty cool. And of course, it wouldn't be a Final Fight game without finding food and items and drums and trash cans and other stuff. Because of course, hey, how else after you had the other beatdown on somebody, then punch open an oil can or something and find a barbecue in there, or a sandwich, or other things. Oh, Capcom, you're so silly. And also, each character has a specialized weapon. So I think for me, since I was playing as Hagar in this review, if you get a lead pipe, Hagar's really good at that. He can really do some awesome stuff with it. And for Guy, if Guy finds a nunchucks laying around, he can use that very well, more better than the other characters. Although I haven't really played as the other two, so I can't really say what those two specialties weapons are. Anyway, now I just want to say this game. I remember reading about this game in, I think, about the late 90s, 94, 95, and I had it in an issue of Nintendo Power. That's what I read it, and that's really fun. And I think, I don't know if I rented it first or if I bought it first, but I really enjoyed the gameplay, and I liked how. And I think I did have the original Final Fight for the Super Nintendo. And I enjoyed it. I was able to finish it. It was pretty fun. But Final Fight 3 I liked as well because now it had the, since I had not played Final Fight 2 at the time, I skipped ahead to Final Fight 3. So I kind of came late to the 2-player Final Fight in a Super Nintendo game kind of party. So like, yay, 2 players! I can have somebody else beat up people with me too! Yay! But I really like it. I finished this game many, many times. And it's one of my favorite beat-em-ups, or brawlers, or whatever you want to call it. But it's really fun, and I really, really enjoyed it. And I would, first of course, I would highly recommend this game, once of course, getting that out of the way. And also, what's cool about it, this game is on the Wii Virtual Console. So if you can find a copy, and by the way, I think this copy has gone up quite in value. I saw it at my local game store for like $50. So it's been pretty much holding its value, which is pretty cool. And even though I don't have an in-box copy, but I do still have the manual floating around. I know where it is too, with all of the moves for the characters, which is cool. But yeah, if you see this floating around at a game store, and of course if you don't have a Super Nintendo, and you see it on the Wii Virtual Console, give it a download. It's well worth whatever, I think it's 10 or so bucks, or $8 or whatever. It's well worth the asking price. And hey, if you can find this game, if you're a Super Nintendo, and can find this game on the cheap somewhere, pick it up and give it a go. I thoroughly enjoy it. And I hope you do too. Well, anyway, yeah. Well, as I just mentioned, my recommendation, highly recommended. And as usual, before we wrap things up, here we go again. As you know, if you know what I'm going to say, if you live in or around South St. Paul, Minnesota, or the Twin Cities metro area, as usual, please visit my good pals at Level Up Games. Besides games, they have magic cards. I think they're starting to do Pokemon tournaments. I think they have Pokemon cards. So they have those collectible card games. I'm not sure if they still have Yu-Gi-Oh, but I know Pokemon, I think they're getting back into that. And Magic they always have, that's always good. And they have comic books, graphic novels, board games, like tabletop board games. And they also have, as I mentioned, they also have card tournaments. I think mainly Pokemon, I think. And I know for sure Magic. So you can go, and if you want more info, their site and stuff, as usual, it should be down below if it isn't already. So that's all that fun stuff. So please give them a visit, maybe if you're around here. And, hello. And anyway, also if you're seeing this on YouTube, awesome! If you're seeing this on Facebook, peachy! And also I have a Twitter feed, as well as I still have a very small Google Plus page. Plus, I'm hopping out the Plus first. With the advent of YouTube, I'm trying to look for the word, like snippety, picky, or whatever, but they're being kind of not too good with their posting some of their newer game videos. I've seen many different YouTube people not post up because YouTube isn't being the best for their videos, but though, just to make sure, I myself open a daily, I think it's a Daily Motion account, I forget what it is, but I'm not going to post it out there yet on this because I don't have no videos on that channel yet, but if I need to, I'll post stuff there, and I'll post stuff, and when I post stuff, you'll be the first to know about it. But anyway, my YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter stuff is below as usual, as well as the Google Plus stuff, my small Google Plus page. So, hello. Well, anyway, that wraps it up for another episode. And also, by the way, before you wrap things up, I'm actually very soon I'll be moving to a new house. So you never know, this might be the last time you see this familiar room in the series. But that will be in April. I'll be moving. So you never know, if I get another episode done here before March is done, cool. If not, well then, I'll probably see you in a new house, in my new house. So anyway, thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for another episode of Power Up.